Oh, it's warm, it's hot, it's Memorial Day, and yeah, the fan's not running very efficiently. Time to talk about war. That's mainly since it's Memorial Day. It's supposed to be a reflection point here in America, blah blah blah, and in reality it's an excuse to cook out. We're also going to talk about Sabaton. Now, the last time that Sabaton released an album, I actually did a video that was along with Ahab and a couple of other artists that sort of acted as a recommendations video way before I even tried the recommendations video earlier this year, which we'll get to another one of those eventually. I haven't forgotten about that. But now with their new album, Heroes, Sabaton finally gets a full-fledged CKN review that they've kind of richly deserved for a long time. Mainly because this is a band that's getting a lot of attention. Not to mention also, I think they deserve a little bit more, because I still feel that even though their name is really starting to get out there, they just recently went #1 in their home country on the charts, they also deserve a lot more attention from a more worldwide audience. So a lot of you, if you're just clicking on this wondering what the hell I'm talking about, then this is a band that you already need to check out prior to me even talking about Heroes. Now, one thing about Sabaton that I'm going to make perfectly clear to everybody is that they do have a great amount of lyrical consistency. They always like to talk about war, whether it be the horrors of it, different battles of it, different individuals that were a portion of it. And this is one where they've expanded to talk about various wars from all across the world. And the lyrical content is such that you go to their Wikipedia page and they actually give a detailed description, not of necessarily, just the theme, which would just be war, 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 but actually what war, or what battle, or what exactly they're talking about, what individual that they're talking about. So, in a way, that's very detailed, and that level of detail actually breeds a little bit of interest in the history that they're speaking about, and that's something that I find interesting about these guys, that they have such a careful, ideal conception of what this history is and how to represent it musically, that it actually breeds a lot more interest from other individuals. So that's kind of cool, and it showcases that music has the power to make you really want to read more up on, different historical items of significance, either that or any other thing. So with this album, we have to understand that they're also a traditional heavy metal band that has a lot of power metal influence, but I also, at times on this album, heard some traces of folk, which I think is really something that more boasts toward what the thematic nature of the song was. But at the same time, it's a nice little piece of evolution. It's nice to know that they have that in their arsenal, and I think it's something that they've used before, but at the same time, it's always nice to hear it again. It's one of those things where you don't necessarily want to teach an old dog new tricks, but if you're just rehashing a trick that you already had and kind of making it special by only doing it every once in a while, then it's a nice little change. I like that motif principally because it gives an album variety, and sometimes I feel guilty that I don't cover a lot more power metal, but at times it gets a little bit aged. It's something that really works against itself by not having a lot of diversity at times, all depending on some bands, where other bands are able to execute that with a lot more furious pace and a lot better, just in general. But from the minute that you talked about albums or songs such as Night Witches, either that or Smoking Snakes and Inmate 4859, you immediately can tell that the themes are going to be jumping around a little bit as far as where we are. This was something where on some previous albums they spoke more about their home country's history as opposed to really expanding to the world, and either doing that very sparsely but not on every track. This is something that's really changed up a little bit. They're talking about a lot more different ideas. I really like songs such as The Ballad of Bull because it has a lot of difference to it. It really showcases that this is a band that also has the capability of going outside of just that basic bare bones idea of heavy and power metal, and really strike out a battle here in there and just do some things that are very different and very unique. The one thing that I found absent from this album that I remember from Careless Rex was just a really landmark epic 7-minute long journey, and that's something that is a little bit disappointing for me because I felt that this group has all of the tools and the capabilities to really showcase all of their tools and all of basically their entire toolbox in a long song like that, and really incorporate a lot of different things that way. That's a method, that's an idea that they chose not to use on this album, and it's just a personal disappointment. It's no knock actually against the band. Instead, these are mainly tracks that only traverse about the 3.5 to 4.5 minute range, and really whenever that happens you have quick tracks, but they're also very meaningful, and that's what this album really has as its strength and really to its benefit. These are tracks that definitely don't overstay their welcome, for one, and for two, they're so nicely crafted, and it's kind of a nice wham bam thank you ma'am, that you are not disappointed by what you hear. They still have plenty of time for soloing. They still have plenty of time for very meaningful lyrics. Some things are very, more catchy than others. And then you have the final track on here, Man of War, which definitely feels like it's just an old, Man of War song. That's the funny part about it. So one thing I kind of like about these guys also is that they have this, like, over-the-top love for war, and it's very dedicated, it's very pristine, it's very legit, but at the same time, the music reminds me of some of those classics from back in the day. And say what you will about Man of War, say that they're cheesy, because they definitely are, but they made, at their core, some great music. So you have to admit those things, regardless of the potential stigmas that are kind of attached to, saying that you like a certain band. Get above that. All in all, I think Heroes is a pretty solid disc. This is certainly one that I popped in a couple of different times before I even felt the need to, even turn the camera on. So it definitely has a bit of lasting power to it. Not to mention there's a lot of meaningful nature to a lot of these tracks, and the fact that they're, very memorable. I really enjoy that fact because it definitely showcases a band whose own ability to write tight songs that are certainly going to remain with individuals is just going up. So I'm going to have to give this album a strong 81 out of 100. I think that this has all the tools to really showcase Sabaton in the future as a real force. These guys are definitely the future of metal, and they've been doing this for, a lot longer than perhaps I'm indicating in that terminology, but this is definitely a group that has a great future, and I'm excited to hear what they have coming next. So what did you guys think of Heroes? What's your favorite track? What's your favorite element about Sabaton's music? Let me know in the comments below, and of course, do all that fun stuff like, subscribe, and comment. We'll become friends, we'll talk music, and we'll have a good time, because, after all, it's not just about me, it's also about you guys, the entirety of the nation collectively. We are spreading the word of music, because it's dangerous to go out there alone. Here, take this album.